Oh, I changed my hat. Now it's on.
For out, so.
If you stand for the pledge.
United States of America. It stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
John, can we have a roll call, please?
Tony Davis.
Here.
Brian Rummel. Libby Wyatt here. Fred Spence.
Here.
Vanessa Battaglia.
We have a quorum. Next, we need to approve the meeting agenda.
Make a motion to approve the meeting agenda for Monday, February 3rd, 2025.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we need a motion to approve the minutes from January 21st.
Make a motion to approve the minutes, January 21st, 2024.
I second.
Nope, was that 25? That's supposed to be 25.
25.
Yeah.
I approved the minutes for January 21st, 2025.
Thank you.
I do second now.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Staying? Okay. Okay, on to new business. Council to consider a special event request from Hancock County Chamber of Commerce to hold a chocolate walk in downtown Fortville on Friday, May 16th from 5 to 8:30. And that would be Retta. You want to come on up? That's a pretty song.
So, if I'm asking you to approve a chocolate walk event, I really should have brought you chocolate. So try to forgive me if you can. I actually have some information on the event. And I apologize if we didn't have copies for the council members. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I can.
So to give a little bit of history, we would like to replicate an event that we do in Greenfield. We will be doing it our 16th year this August. It is basically a scavenger hunt and walking in the downtown area. So what happens is it is a fundraiser for our chamber. People buy a ticket. In your packet, I've got a punch card that usually goes on a pink lanyard. People buy the tickets. We give them a map. I gave you a couple of samples of maps. And then they walk around downtown and get samples of chocolate. We ask downtown merchants to be vendors, if you will, to give away samples of chocolate. The cost to vendors or downtown businesses is indeed, you need to rent a booth space, if you will, and that's not really accurate, but we found that if we ask people to put a little skin in the game, to pay $25, $35, that they'll participate and show up. So if you think of a sample of chocolate, a bite size, does not need to be a huge cookie, a big brownie, whatever. I also tried to provide in that folder a montage of some photos of chocolate that people have done other places. We've had financial institutions that do the gold coins. We've got people who do their logo in chocolate. The intent is to get people walking downtown and into businesses. So our number one goal is to ask our downtown merchants to participate in this. if we have people who want to participate and don't have a spot downtown, maybe they don't have a retail location, or they're located somewhere other than downtown. Andy was kind enough to go look at the alley for me, and we think we can put some people in the alley setting up a table to distribute chocolate. Pink is our color, so Andy and I have been having some discussions about the infamous pink elephant. So these are the shirts that our vendors would be wearing. And it is just a great way to get 300 sugared up people walking around your downtown on a Friday night. So again, we've been doing it for 16 years in Greenfield. It's just a really fun event, and I hope you'll consider our application or a permit. I'm happy to take questions if anybody has
I
any.
think it's a great idea. I don't eat chocolate, but everybody else does, so I think it's a great idea.
Are you looking just at the Main Street shops?
I'm sorry.
Are you looking at just the Main Street shops?
It will be concentrated, yes, Libby, in a walkable area, if you will. We are going to, GBC Bank has offered to let us use their location as kind of the hub where people check in, they get their punch cards, they get their maps, they do the walk on Main Street, and then bring it back to us. On the back of that punch card is an opportunity for them to vote for their people's choice. So it's a little bit of competition of whose chocolate did you like the best? And then we actually give awards with our Chocolate Walk logo on it to the winners of that. But again, we've had the experience in Greenfield. I have people from all over Greenfield who want to participate. So we find them a place in the Living Alley in Greenfield or on the Courthouse Plaza in front of something. So it doesn't have to be restricted just to people on Main Street.
Okay.
Is there a rain date or is it just be rain or shine?
Bite your tongue.
Okay.
No.
In the 16 years that we have done this event, we've had rain one time. And I wouldn't even call it rain. It was more mist. No, because we are asking the vendors to purchase 300 pieces of chocolate of some kind. It does need to be made in a commercial kitchen, so it can't just be, we don't, although I love Snickers and M&Ms, we don't want it to be that. We want it to be a little bit more gourmet. So, no, long answer, no, we do not.
Be nice
It's rain
to-
or shine.
Yeah, bring an umbrella. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. It's, again, we've been lucky that we've only had rain one time.
Okay, thank you.
You consider cross-promoting this event to the return customers of your Greenfield chocolate?
Absolutely. We have sold out of this event the last 4 years in Greenfield, 300 tickets every year. We have sold out about a month before the event. So we have a following of people who come to this. My hope is that if they can't get tickets for your event, that maybe they'll come to ours or vice versa. So yes, absolutely. We have plans for social media promotion. The yard signs that I brought simply will be in front of any of the stops along that walk to help people. They've got a map. They really shouldn't have any trouble finding the stops. And yeah, we do a lot of social media on that. We send a weekly email newsletter from the chamber to over 2,400 email addresses. We'll promote it in that event as well. So I don't mean to sound a little sure, but I'm not worried that we're going to sell out. I think it'll be a blast.
Okay, I guess I'm looking for a motion then to approve this special event. Do we have to?
I make a motion to approve the County Chamber of Commerce Chocolate Walk in Downtown Fortville, Friday, the 16th from 5 to 8:30 p.m.
I second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck. It sounds like big fun.
Time I'll bring chocolate.
You'll probably have to bring it for the audience too. They might feel. Yeah. Okay, next up we have waste management. Daniela Schrock.
My name is Daniela, and I am the account executive for your account. I'm responsible for all accounts in Indianapolis, their surrounding area, and part of Ohio. I'm here accompanied by your new district managers, Hunter Waning, and your new route manager, Keith Walker. We just want to take some time to address council. I know that, at the beginning of the month, we were going through a big transition, going from one hauling site to the one where we're currently at. But we just wanted to take the time to thank you guys for bearing with us during this time. But we're very excited to share. We've had a great meeting with Joe and Andy, and we've had some great updates on our service progress. And so I'll let Hunter and Keith kind of speak to that. If you guys would sort of share a little bit of, what we've done to make this transition better, and sort of this service pluses that they're going to get coming from your guys' hauling site.
Yeah. Good evening, council. Thanks for the time. My name's Hunter. I'm the district manager here at the Lawrence location for waste management. As you guys know, we transitioned from the Morristown location to the Indy East location, as they call us. The Morristown location lost the McCordsville contract, and we lost the Fishers contract. So what we did was basically a route balancing to where we are now responsible at Lawrence. We went from 8 drivers to 4 drivers. So really moving forward, you guys are going to be our only municipality. We pick you up every Wednesday. We have a dedicated driver, same route, same truck, same area every single Wednesday. So hopefully you guys have noticed over the last few weeks, service has improved. At the Morristown location, we were just going through a bit of a staffing lull. We had some employees go out on sick leave and family medical leave kind of all around that holiday. So we weren't able to bring in what we call gold team help from other locations to kind of bail us out in those situations. So it was kind of the perfect storm of staffing and injury and just being short staffed with the weather coming in and the holidays that we just plain and simple, we didn't have enough people to service you guys, right? But ideally, you're transitioned now to our shop. We have 4 drivers, 4 solid drivers, 1 spare driver that are all trained, that are dedicated to the town of Fortville. They know you guys are their only municipality, right? So taking care of you guys and making sure that their number 1 town is serviced properly. They get to know the residents, they get to know the areas, they get to know the routes. We can get back to that small town service that you guys have had in the past and known with WM, and get away from, why can't I get a hold of anybody? You know who we are. We're right down the road in Lawrence, and you guys are of a big importance to us because all of our other routes are just open market customers. You guys are our only city that we deal with. You guys are our number 1 priority when it comes to residential service.
Good evening. My name is Keith Walker. I'm the actual senior route manager, senior operations manager now for this location. I am very visible. I have a white truck. It's got WM on it. And I parked down at Huck's, is that name? Gas station. Me and the guy have already become friends. So, but my intent is to be here for you. I spoke with Joe and Angie, and I let them know that I'm just a phone call away, right down the street. I will be visible every Wednesday. And if there's an issue, I am here to take care of that immediately. I do send them every Thursday afternoon or to noon. And if there's an issue that we've found out about or need to address, I make sure they get an email. We address it the next day. If there's no issues, I'll let them know there's no issues. If they have an issue, they send me the email. I go and respond to it. We just want to give you that feeling back again. And we want you to know that you're important to us. Just as important as we are to you, we want you to know that you're important to us. And we're there for you. Like I said, I'm in town every Wednesday. Stay there at the gas station until my driver shows up. I'll hop in the truck with either one of them to make sure they're servicing you properly. And if there's any questions, I'm available. Like I said, I spoke with Joe and Angie about this, and thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
So you have, the 4 drivers are dedicated to Fortville, right? So if you have a driver that's not there, or two drivers, can you still cover the area with 2 and your 1 sub?
Yeah, we have spare drivers also.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know.
If somebody has a question, are they supposed to call the town, or is there a number that they call at Waste Management?
Ideally, we want people to call into our customer service line. We also have like a chat option as well. Our customer service wait times, this week were about 95 seconds, per call, which is wonderful. Joe and Angie have a direct line to me. Now, my information isn't to be shared to the residents because I respond to you guys, not the residents, but if there's ever an issue where someone's not getting picked up, you can have his number and he'll definitely get it taken care of. But ideally for us, something that we really want to start doing is promoting self-service, which makes, Joe and Angie's office definitely a lot more quiet. We are looking into having a dedicated website for the town of Fortville where residents can come in, they can schedule a bulk pickup, they can report something missing. We're currently in the works of that. We're all over, biggest trash company in all of the United States and Canada. So we're slowly working to getting that available to everyone. But the first thing is, call customer service. We have dedicated people that are doing that. The second line of defense is these guys right here. And then if it gets really, really bad, call me in and I'll get it looked into. But, we want to make sure that we're a resource to you all. You guys are paying us to be there, and so that's what we want to do. But like I said, we're looking forward to also getting some education pieces out to the community once we do get those sites up, so that, hopefully that reduces the calls coming in to the city. And people are able to, schedule a bulk pickup. They're able to, reach out if there's something wrong with their service, schedule another can to be sent over to them. So, our goal for us, as we always say, is we want to be the Amazon of trash, and we're working on it right now. So we're excited to hopefully roll that out here soon to you guys. But yeah.
So the current mobile app that we have, does it no longer?
Yeah, you could use the mobile app. We are just ideally wanting it to be a website for the town of Fortville so that you guys can put it on your website and it goes directly there and it's specifically for you guys. So that's something that we're currently in the works of, but we're excited to roll it out. And like I said, we'll get some educational stuff out there for the community. I think that it's extremely important. Anything to make our lives easier. And so, to get people kind of started on that, is going to be awesome. It'll make it, if you put your information, your address in, say you need some service, it immediately generates a ticket and he sees it instead of calling him and having to go through all that. So.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Do you have some cards in your hands there? We'd love to have them.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. I got it. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thanks, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, next up, we have council to consider first reading of ordinance number 2025-2A, I believe, amending the town sewer use ordinance. Joe?
Yeah, I can start out with this. Basically, we have a sewer use ordinance and the NPDS permit. We have to submit this, review it and submit it to NDOT periodically, or not NDOT, IDEM periodically. And what we have found on this is there were just a few, I don't want to say typos, but there was like some IC codes or some chapters that was referenced in the old document that don't exist anymore. So pretty much the only thing on this document, this amendment, is just some housekeeping to the original ordinance then.
Did the fines go up on page 4? Or they've always been 7,500
I
and
believe they've always been
2,500?
7,500. Alex, I know that you, made these amendments. Do you, recognize were those numbers or those
Yeah.
fees changed? I don't think they do.
No.
Yeah.
Was it really just verbiage that changed, or was there anything else that?
It's just the plan, there was like some redundant stuff in there that was taken out and referenced in different locations and.
A lot of it also, like Joe mentioned, was there were some state regulations and state statutes that had either been amended or repealed, moved to new. It was just really more form than substance to just clean that up to make sure that the town's ordinance is consistent with the current state statutes and regulations.
Could we have this in a red line version though in the future? So that we don't have to sit here and ask real time what changed?
I think pretty much everything on that, and Alex can correct me because he prepared it. I believe everything on this is pretty much the red line because the document itself is quite a bit.
But we can't
Mhm.
see what it is. That's the problem. That's why we're sitting here asking what changed. So that
I'd
way,
be
if-
happy to get you a copy
Yeah.
of that.
just going forward, because if you're saying it was just IC references and things like that, then that's nothing we would know either way about just sitting here. But if we had the red lines, then we could at least just know what it is, you know, in the future. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2025-2A, and then the council use.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next up, we have council to consider awarding a contract for the 2024 CCMG Timber Ridge Pavement Project. And that is Joe as well.
Yes, this would be me. This is the 2024-2 Community Crossing Matching Grant that we get through NDOT for paving. We were awarded, it was 75% of what the estimated engineered cost here. So it was like, it was closer to 900,000, I believe is what they awarded us. But after opening bids and getting, it was 7 different bidders on this project. The bids range from low bid was 802,252.78. And the high bid was $1,650,661. Quite a bit of difference there, but the high bid is extremely high. If you throw that one out, they're all, you know, a lot closer. But after reviewing the documents and making sure everything was there, I would recommend to the council to award the $802,252.78 to DC Construction Services out of Pendleton. This will pretty much pave everything in Timber Ridge, repair busted curbs, ADA ramps, and sidewalks that are in bad shape that need to be repaired, so.
Joe, is there any other reason other than the fact that it was the lowest bid that you're recommending this one?
Matched up as far as they've done projects before, they've got the backing. So they got a good record.
Well, that was my other question. Have any of these companies done work with us before?
Sure. Yeah, we've done work with Howard projects.
But not DC Construction Services?
First time. First time.
Well, for, just as an example, Howard gave an estimate of 895,000, so not that far off from the 802, and we've done work with them before, so is there a reason you wouldn't want to work with them again, just out of curiosity?
It's prerogative.
two better.
I do too.
I'll make a motion to contract to construction services for $802,252.78. 2024-2 CCMG for Timber Ridge.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have Chief Bratton with the yearly report for 2024.
Yep. That out to you guys last week. I've just got an overview that I put out for the public that I'd like to hit some of the highlights on. I know you guys got a big thick copy with everything in there, but I'll try to be brief with it. Last year, our calls for service increased 35.06%. We took 16,273 calls, equaling 44.58 calls per day. Now, some of that might be really quick. You know, officers drive through a neighborhood, it's a neighborhood check. Some of those might be, you know, a domestic disturbance where it takes quite some time to handle. So the timing of that, taking that many calls per day is still a lot for our officers to handle. You guys have all the totals from 2022, 2023, 2024. That's on the public's overview also. So we have 3 members on the SWAT team, Officer Freitas, and then 2 support members, Officer Allen and Officer Lewis. SWAT team was called out, I believe, 7 times. No officers were injured. 1 suspect was injured from a taser deployment, and 1 suspect died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. They trained 192 hours through the year. We also have the FACT team members. We have 3 members on the FACT team. They responded to 10 call-outs, which is the fatal accident crash team. 3 of the call-outs resulted in fatalities, and town of Fortville had 1 fatal accident last year. Use of force, basically anything above basic handcuffing. The department had 7 uses of force. 5 of them were empty hand control techniques where someone's probably just being a little bit resistive, and we have to put them in a control technique to get control of them, to get handcuffs on them. And then 2 of them were vehicle pursuits that ended safely. Town of Fortville had 78 accidents in 2024. Out of the 78, 4 were injury accidents with a total of 8 persons injured. Not all accidents are included in this data because parties exchange information, and sometimes they wish not to have a report taken if it's under a certain value amount. State law dictates if it's under $1,500, we don't have to take a report unless the party requests it. So we had several of those where it was just a minor fender bender, or somebody backs out of a parking spot and clips somebody else, and then they get together and talk it out. Basically, major accomplishments that I felt that we accomplished in 2024 was our shop of public safety. We raised right around $10,500. We spent about $9,200 due to the generous donations of the town and the taxpayers. We still have a balance in that fund of about $500, which we're very thankful for. It gives us the ability to go out and shop for people that may need it throughout the year. And we can help people in other ways if we need to. We hired and trained 2 new officers. We got the Bulletproof Vest Grant, which is a 50% matching grant. We replaced 7 expired vests last year. We hired 1 new reserve officer. We added 2 cars to the fleet and outfitted them for patrol, although 1 of them got crashed towards the end of the year, but it's been replaced and we're getting it put back in service hopefully by the end of this week. We certified all officers in tactical medical procedures and tactical medical aid. We sent 3 officers to CIT training, which I believe has helped with some of our mental emotional calls. And then we assisted in all town-sponsored activities, including Cammy's Cause and Blazer 88. Real quick rundown of my goals for 2025. Obviously, to continue to build partnerships with the community increase the reserve unit by 2. We need to hire and train 2 full-time officers that we have spots for this year. The big one for me that I'm really going to try to focus on is to maintain the response time for call efficiency. With that many calls, unfortunately, if we don't have the officers, our response time is going to go a little bit longer. So I want to make sure that we can maintain response time, keep our calls efficient. And some of that the officers can do on their computer, whether it's a neighborhood check, they can just mark out on their computer on the neighborhood check. And if they clear it, there's a real quick, easy button to clear. If it's other calls, I want them to ensure that they investigate everything properly. But sometimes we spend time on calls where I think we can cut some of that time down and respond to the next call. Another goal, I want to reduce property crimes with more proactive patrols. Our officers do a really good job at that. They do a lot of neighborhood checks. They're in the neighborhoods. I know I've had calls, people got mad because the officers rang their doorbell at 3 a.m. saying, hey, your garage door's open and your light's on. And the next day they call back and they say, hey, I'm sorry, I was upset last night when I left you that message, but I really appreciate the officers going out and doing that to keep my stuff safe. We're going to continue with our Shop with Public Safety program. We're going to participate in all town sponsored events and the 2 additional foundation events. Other than that, that's a quick and down and dirty overview. I'm happy to discuss any of it. Anybody have questions about it? Public, if you have questions about it or need more information, my door's open. Feel free to come and ask. Council, if you have any questions, I'm here and willing to give you whatever you need.
I think you guys are doing a really good job of keeping up with it.
I do too. It was a busy year.
It was a little busy. Anybody else?
No,
Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Next up, we have update to the Independent Contractor Agreement for providing certain services related to Fortville festivals. Keith, you want to come on up?
Parks Manager. I don't have much to start with this other than, obviously we were able to get with Alex, and taking some of the concerns from the previous contract and suggestions and issues and trying to rectify those within whatever the agreement is. I want to stress that this is obviously a rough draft. It is here in front of you to, look at it and ultimately decide how you want to move forward with a contract, if any, and what that means and how that shapes up. Obviously, from an execution standpoint, that can't be done with whomever would be, enlisted in doing those services until this is finished up. So as it sits, that's kind of what you got in front of you. Alex, thank you for putting this together. I believe everybody's got the red line version of it. So at this point in time, you guys just really need to talk as a council to figure out if it's something you guys would like to do and continue.
Well, obviously, I think it's something that we need to have in place if we're going to have a contractor that actually facilitates these events. So, I mean, I think the contract looks good. The only thing I might add to it is put a date down here by the signature at the end, as long as I know you've got the date at the beginning too, but I'd put one down where it's signed as well. But as far as how it's written, I'm comfortable with that.
Does the contract, does it end at the end of the year or is it per
Again,
event?
You guys can set that in any way that you want. My suggestion would be year to year.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
As it was previously, but
Paragraph 3.
Yeah, it's
Is it in there? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, did I miss two? Do we want to put in here, or is it already in here? Including the scope of marketing and what we would expect? What kind of marketing or what it looks like or anything like that?
That is not currently in here.
Up to the contractor.
Again, if that's something you guys would like to see added, then
Yeah.
we can make changes to it.
I think we've done the so-called marketing or whatever in the past, right? The signage and stuff was done by the town or the parks.
We've put out the town, obviously the A-frames, and Andy has posted
Posting, yeah.
on the town website. I've posted through like Parks Instagram, but a lot of that Facebook and the other marketing was done previously by Natalie.
Yeah, outside of what we did, she did her some.
Correct.
Okay.
Outside of that year that we had some of those stellar funds available and were able to, which I think is what initially kind of started Fritz on asking about town marketing, was the whole stellar program and marketing and that type of thing. So like I said, we had funds in 2022 from that Hancock County Tourism Stellar grant. It was kind of a separate deal. And then Fortville, along with Shirley and Greenfield, had a little bit left over in 2023 that we had to use up. And so it went again towards Pickett and Associates and a couple other, through like Hancock Health and doing some marketing in that way. So
I just think we can do a better job of marketing it and maybe have some approval of design if there's, I just felt, and I know I am a jack of all trades in my world and it's hard to know how to do things, but some of the posters were not bright and visible and you kind of drive by and go, what is that? So maybe that's why I'm mentioning it, like have some approval processes done or something to, I'm not saying it needs to come to us. I'm just saying that set some
Yeah.
expectations of marketing.
Some feedback loop, like some feedback loops from somewhere in here.
Yeah.
So one of the things particular like that, you can, trying to fit either just the main date and time versus, hey, this is the lineup. It's hard. I mean, they're 2x3, right? So I think it's important then to push out via whether it's social media, the town's website. We do have the ability now to send out, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, mass texts through, I saw the one today, things like that we can announce days, times, events, that type of thing.
Get things out into the shops, maybe. Make some posters that get out. I have a community board that people put their business cards on that gets a lot of visibility. Something like that would include more than just the town having to market it,
Well, and again, if that's something that you would like to see in this.
Yeah, I don't know if it should be in this or if it's something that you set parameters for and discuss when you pick a contractor and have an agreement, but I don't know.
Yeah, Libby, that was actually kind of related to one of my questions. Would this, Heath, would you manage this contract? Is that the intention that you would manage the terms of this? Just the person, not that the person reports to you or anything like that, but who manages the terms?
I mean, I would make sure based on this contract that the things that were in this contract were being followed through. So we're procuring sponsorships, we're, procuring vendors, just the different things laid out within this contract.
Right. Well, using Libby's question as an example, if we don't, if we bring the feedback to you to say, we didn't really like the way the marketing was before the signs, will you coordinate with the person doing this contract to say, you go do something about the signs and maybe you work with that person so we're not doing that? Is that how that would work?
Yeah, I mean, that would ultimately be the goal on that, depending on, obviously you don't want this contract to be 25 pages long, right? And so, having, at the end of the day, yes, we can have those conversations. These are my expectations. This is what we would like to see change. And then again, it's a year to year thing, right? So at the end of the day, if it's not in here and somebody says, well, that wasn't in the contract, sorry, I'm not doing it, then at that point in time, we have a decision to make to either terminate, or I shouldn't say terminate, renew that contract for that same person, or look for somebody else that's going to do it.
I don't know that we've ever asked them specifically to handle marketing as a direct, it's just been whatever they've chose to do in the past. So it's not been a conversation, I think.
No, I mean, it is something from a, social media standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be very clear. It was two people, right?
Yeah, it's
Just trying to throw, as much information out as you can. And again, I'm not a Facebook person, but, the number of hits, the number of shares, those type of things, I'm assuming are what you want to see.
Right.
And that's where having somebody in that small window where we had some of that stellar money was, having, kind of access to that information of, we could go to them and say, hey, how many hits do we have? How many shares do we have? They were tracking that kind of stuff. And I don't know that we necessarily one of their things, and Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the questions that they had was the analytics. There was a big analytics piece to that they had access, were hoping to have access to our Google Analytics. And I believe at the time we didn't even have Google Analytics set up. So again, it's a learning process, right?
Sure.
Trying to figure out, from that standpoint, how we can market it better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought that the Facebook activity looked very thriving, personally, just from what I saw. But I guess my question, kind of generalizing Libby's question, if this contract, if this vehicle is meant for, to help our festivals thrive, then between this contract vehicle and you and the person who executes it, how do we arrange, how do we get questions answered? Like, if we decide up here, or we don't like the signs, how, if we want to improve our festivals, how is this going to help us do it? It doesn't have to be terms in there. Like, there don't have to be specific terms. That doesn't always make sense, but just how do we, I can appreciate Libby's question. I have some similar questions, so I was just wondering about that, because I find that the contract doesn't really say very much that's very specific at all about what's to be done with the festivals, including there's no list of the festivals. So I just wondered, from a basic scope perspective, should we list out which festivals we're talking about? Somebody, just like you just said, somebody could sign up to do this and not even agree with us on what festivals there are, for example. So that was one of my questions, which festivals are they? And at a high level, what's the person's scope of work to do about the festivals? I had a couple of other questions that since you said if this is just a draft, I'll just kind of move along to my other questions. The period of performance, Alex, you said that it was annual in paragraph 3, but it says here, it kind of looks like it's set to be whatever today's date, but it ends on December 31st. Can this just be an annually recurring contract to conclude 1 year from whatever is the date?
It can be. Yeah.
I mean, I would think that would make sense, because the contract we looked at before was from March whatever day until December 31st, and I didn't understand why it wasn't a 1 year POP.
I think it was because that's when the contract was formed, right?
In 2024, she originally, and that was never changed from when she was still with the town in 2023, the first half of it. So by the time the contract got around, like going through that whole process, it was past like January 1 to December 31st. So whatever the dates, from date of signing to the following, at the end of the day, really, it doesn't even need to be anything past the date of Winterfest, right? So.
Well, I'm just saying, whatever day it is, it should just end 1 year from that date, or, I don't see why anything has to end on December 31st, but just if it's supposed to be annually recurring, I would assume that it would be ends 1 year from this date. That's at the top. I had a couple of other questions.
On that, though, I
Yeah.
would just say, even past the date of Winterfest, there may still be sponsorships that this person would be trying to get people to pay up that they had committed to pay for Winterfest or Summerfest or whatever fest or event. So giving them to the end of the year, I mean, that's their obligation.
Why wouldn't it just be 1 year from the state? Why wouldn't it just be an annually recurring 365-day contract?
One of the reasons has to do with, I like setting things for December 31st to terminate for municipal contracts, so that if there's an election and a new council member, typically they're sworn in January, so that you've got a new council member that would weigh in on the contract it's going to be for that coming year. If you don't like that, I mean, it's not something that you have to do, but that's why I recommend setting it up that way.
It's a good point. I mean, maybe just to get started, but then after this, it should be like a January 1st to December 31st, for the following years. All right, well, also, so it says here, so there's a new part of paragraph 2C here that says the checks shall be made payable to the town of Fortville, designating that it's for a festival and submitted to the treasurer. But then over in paragraph, let's see.
Yeah, so which paragraph did you say first?
So in paragraph 2C, there's a new portion here that says checks shall be made payable to the town of Fortville, which is like a new arrangement, which sounds good. But then it says here, there's another paragraph that says, in paragraph 6 under fees, it says the contractor shall retain event fees from the procurement of vendors for events. So I didn't really understand. That sounds contradictory.
The 2C, it says it's for donations and sponsorships. So the town collects any sponsorships, that are,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're right. When I read it, I thought that was funds received from the vendors. Okay.
yeah.
So that's just kind of how it is now. Right now, the town receives the donations and the sponsorships, right?
Correct.
But then so this is basically maintaining the same arrangement before that the contractor retains all of the fees received from the vendors, all the basically income.
Mhm.
And I think that's a major issue with this contract. I think that's the issue that we found on December 16th with the arrangement that we had before. If you look down at paragraph 10, it says here that the town has to pay for basically all the costs of these festivals. The electrical means, the cables, the power boxes, it talks about the hookups, trash cans, dumpsters, portable toilets, and all this other stuff. So basically, this contract doesn't really change anything about the former arrangement where the town pays all the bills for these events, but the contractor goes off with all of the proceeds from the event. So I just don't see how that makes any sense, because the town at a minimum has to come out even. But if there's going to be proceeds over and above the costs of the events, then shouldn't that go back to the town? Whoever's doing this contract should be compensated somehow, but beyond some point, if there's any proceeds, those should go to the town for town improvements. That's what we were talking about last time.
The sponsors and everything are the ones that pay for those amenities that the town's offering to cover. So that's the reason why the sponsors are there, is to cover the majority of those fees. And I think they normally do, don't they, Heath? They come close to making them.
Yes, and
Sometimes it's less, but yeah. But that's the service we're providing to the community, as to have an event. By offering those things as part of the festival or the event itself.
you have to offer some kind of compensation for that contractor.
Yeah.
You need to figure out whether or not the cost of procuring vendor payments is worth the money. I mean, for lack of better words, for instance, in 2022, when we had the employee here, the vendors brought in around $5,100. We pay that employee close to $15,000 for the year. So we are net negative regardless of what we do as far as these events. These events were never made to make money. I would venture to say, FAI is back here, you guys probably didn't make money on Winterfest.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so they would make more money now if they took it back over because they wouldn't be paying for dumpsters and all this other stuff. So what's
But it
our
wouldn't
cost?
necessarily be tagged as a town event. If we are going to take the responsibility as a town and say, hey, the town of Fortville is hosting Summerfest, the town of Fortville is hosting Winterfest, then we are going to have to accrue those costs based on what it's gonna cost us.
It seems like
to
the
get in.
chamber would want to take this over the way it's written. Because then they could take the money and organize it. Because we're really the ones that are getting all the cost and doing all the work.
This last Winterfest had very few sponsors, but lots and lots of vendors. And it occurs to me that a contractor under a contract like this is not incentivized to get lots of sponsors to raise money for the town. They're incentivized to get lots of vendors to put money in their own pocket. And that's related to another question that I have that's not addressed here, which is, should we cap the number of vendors that there could be? Because there seems to be a geographical set of boundaries of streets that we're willing to close for this.
Right.
So is there a logical maximum number of vendors?
So yes, on Main Street for Winterfest, for example, there's only certain points for power. So you're capped at whatever that is. I don't have that number in front of me, but I've got the distances of what that is. Like, it can never go beyond that, considering we don't want to run past Stat Street. So it's whatever you can, everything's been in the past has been a 10 by 10 space. So however many 10 by 10s that you can fit essentially in those areas. We did move, 2 years ago, the skating rink from North Main Street past Stat into the public parking lot, which provided a little bit more space for some non-electric vendors in that area. Summerfest, after Summerfest this year, we had already actually talked about cutting it down. There were too many vendors. So I think we're at the point now where we can't not utilize Stat Street, but in the past, and again, without getting into the weeds, we've got the church side Veterans Court where we have a lot of the vendors, and then at Stat Street, went down to Knoll, went over basically to the alley where Mozzie's Pizza would, pulls their drivers and stuff in. The conversation was to move that. Again, this is only our, third year doing it, and we're trying to figure out the best way to do it, because it was almost too big for this last Summerfest, and so trying to move that in the other direction and cutting vendors down. I think the conversation was to cut them down however many we can. I'd have to look see exactly how many we had, but I want to say it was cutting it down to maximum of 75. And I think that's the conversation of what can we fit? It's a distance thing, right?
And that's a logical thing to discuss, that if we have a bounded geographical area, there's a public safety issue that you can only
sure.
cram so many tents into that area. So that number would be naturally capped. What I'm looking at here is, you're saying that these events aren't supposed to, be a moneymaker event for the town, but I say they're also not supposed to be a moneymaker event for some individual who runs the events. You could say the same in either direction. So there has to be some limit. If we're sitting and looking at redoing a contract, it's a good time to look at math and boundaries. There's a geographic boundary. We should look at what is the limit of the number of vendors or types of vendors, whether it's tents or trucks or whatever it is, I don't know. And cap it so that then the question becomes, can this contractor just name whatever value they want to charge the vendors? Because then they can just make a lot of income that way and run off with it. And we don't necessarily want that to happen. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking at with this. I mean, the way this is written right now, it really just looks like there's no particular incentive for the contractor to find sponsors to make money for the town. But we have some basic math because we know about how much the costs are. There's these electrical costs and the trash removal and the porta potties and stuff like that. And then you get the vendors to cover those costs. I don't know either of those numbers offhand, but you want there to be at least as many sponsors as the cost. And then the vendors are there to generate the income to make it worth somebody's while to do this, but we don't want them to run off and charge a fortune, because the vendors, it seems evident that the vendors will pay higher and higher fees to a point. That's sort of how the economics work. But we don't want that to become a fortune just for somebody else's benefit. It says here in section 6 here, it says the contractor shall provide the town a schedule of fees to be charged. So I don't, what does schedule mean in this context?
Schedule would mean that they would need to let us know exactly what they're charging for vendors and how that's, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex. That is,
So they wouldn't be charging for electrical any longer. It'd be just $100 for a booth.
well, here's the problem. Then you don't provide electrical and or, again, it's gonna have to be based on whoever that contractor would be. Is it first come, first serve, right? If you're going to provide electrical, then how do you differentiate between somebody that wanted to pay for electrical versus not paying for electrical? And I also want to note that part of that electrical cost isn't necessarily even in the electrical cost. It's within the actual like logistics of planning where people have to be. It takes a lot of time to figure out from a vendor standpoint or from a vendor coordinator standpoint, I've got to put all of these people on this side of the road because of this electric. I've got to do this over here because of the higher power electric from the 240. So it's not just a fee to cover the extra time. If it was as simple as, hey, we've got this as many spaces and this is your spot, your spot, your spot, your spot, without any thought going into how to, make it accommodating for those that need electrical, whether it's food vendors, those type of things. I mean, the other options are from a vendor perspective, for instance, most food trucks carry their own generator. Do you not provide electric for, food trucks?
Well, right, but Heath, I think Fritz, what you're saying is why is the contractor collecting and keeping a fee for electrical if the town is paying for the electrical?
For the time spent.
To plan it.
So as I've explained, it's a poor choice of words. They're not paying for the electricity. There's no ability to do that. They don't have,
Sentence.
the vendors. I mean, there's not a meter set up for their site. There's no way to distinguish, okay, this vendor pulled X amount of electricity. So
We're technically paying for a premium spot.
Poor wording, which we're trying to clean up on the elect. So no one was paying for the electricity. It was paying for, that's a premium spot if you want electric.
I would like that to be explained when we draw the contract.
Well,
So people know what they're buying when they pay the extra 25. It should be a description in.
I think that, but that's not what the town provides. That is making sure that the schedule of fees that the contractor provides identifies and sets the fee schedule in accordance to what the town thinks is appropriate and kind of to all of these, right? I mean, this is a contractor and they're going to do things the way they want. It's certainly fine to elaborate some more specific expectations, but the termination paragraph, I mean, nothing changed there from the original contract. It has in C2, if the contractor's performing something or not performing something in a timely or professional manner in the town's sole discretion, we can terminate. So you do terminate that. So if they come back and they've got a fee schedule, Heath reviews that, or Joe reviews that, or the council reviews it, and says, these are outrageous, we don't like this, and the contractor disagrees, in the town's sole discretion, you can say, this isn't what we signed up for, you terminate and you get someone else to do it.
But Alex, so from what you just described, you're saying that the electrical fee nominally that is charged to vendors is just to differentiate between having a premium spot next to an outlet versus just having a tent somewhere on the street? Is that what you're saying?
So I'm saying my understanding of way that the former contractor set it up. Heath also added on, it's about the time spent and the logistics going in there. So if you're gonna have to accommodate.
It seems like
vendors-
we're gathering that cost because our guys are doing all the work.
Okay.
Are they doing any of the labor portion of setting this up and?
No.
Okay,
No.
so do we have a labor cost of how many guys that you use and for that day to set up and take down?
I don't have it on me, but that's something.
Like 4 or 5 guys, 8 hours?
No.
But this is important. So if I could jump in, To your question about incentivizing the contractor to obtain sponsorships in addition to just vendor agreements, one possibility would be, Heath, what Fritz is asking, figuring out what is our labor cost, effective labor cost, material cost for whatever event. And it'd be nice to set that as the baseline as breaks. Let's just call it $5,000. I know it's probably way more than that. Call it $5,000. So we could add a provision to this agreement saying that one of the expectations, contractor, is that you secure for each event or for Summerfest and Winterfest, a minimum of $5,000 in sponsorship to cover the town's responsibility. To the extent you don't secure $5,000 or more in sponsorship, then on the fee provision, the town gets reimbursed a percentage, X percent, Y percent of whatever vendor fees. So some of that comes back to help offset what, whatever the delta is between the 5,000 and what was actually achieved. Just an
Yeah.
idea, but that's easy to put in there.
Yeah,
It wasn't
that's,
part of the form, but it's a
that's a
council
kind of,
decision, but.
well, that's the kind of
just an idea.
reconciliation that makes sense to me. That makes sense, that at least the costs need to be covered. The costs need to be covered. The contractor needs to be compensated to an extent. Beyond some extent, beyond some limit, maybe it would arguably be too much, but that's a separate matter.
The question uses the contractor. Let's say you put this in the newspaper. You get 10 people that'll volunteer to run this.
Mhm.
Is it the council makes a vote on who gets to run it?
Yeah,
No,
who's
it's,
choosing?
it's their decision to make, Joe and Heath.
She says Joe and Heath.
Joe and Heath would decide who the contractor is on these?
Unless you
But,
guys.
but we can, yeah, we
No,
can,
right.
It
Yeah.
should be a vote. There
It
should be a vote.
vote, I think.
So my question to you all is deciding what you would like the town to be responsible for from a payment standpoint. If we are asking a vendor to compensate us for things to break, we're asking a vendor out of their money earned to compensate the town back so we're covered. Is that a town event? I guess at that point in time, where do we draw the line between, and I don't care where it is, but you guys need to figure out what we're responsible for paying.
Taxpayer funded donations to an event that benefits profitably some person. What kind of event is that then? That should just be called whoever's event, not even the town event. If you compare this to if you compare this contract to Be Local, like Mary Beth Haas, like she is a private company. She came in, she wanted to do an event, and it was a Be Local event, and she makes the money and the town doesn't make the money and we actually donated to that, right? But that's her event. That's the comparison to this. If this is a town event, then net proceeds should benefit the town. I mean, that's my opinion. I don't think the net, if somebody has to be compensated, yes, but if there's gonna be net proceeds, even a little bit, even like a couple $1,000 or whatever, I don't know, that should go back to the town
But
to fix playground equipment or whatever. I don't know.
You're asking, maybe I'm not hearing this right. What I'm hearing is you're asking someone to give, let's say it's $2,000. Like you're asking someone to do the work for us, but then pay us for the work that you're doing, right? So vendors, I'm trying to figure out what you're saying here.
No, our costs need to be covered. We cannot, there are costs for this that we're paying for, the electrical and all that other stuff in the porta potties, and sponsors cover those costs. And then the vendor money in this arrangement goes to pay the contractor. And I like what Alex had to say just there about, there need to be enough sponsors to cover our costs. There needs to be enough sponsorship money to cover our costs. And if the contractor falls short of being able to get that much sponsorship money, then the contractor needs to cover that money out of the money that they're getting separately.
so we're getting way far away from what this started out to be. That's the point I want to make. So when this started, it was a donated time by a group, an organization that.
Yeah, please. Hey, Bob, come up and please, thank you.
Yeah, don't go too far. He's got more questions.
Bob Standard. I think the town just needs to decide if this is a town event or not. As a taxpayer, I really don't mind that the town pays to have these events go on. You're not going to find somebody to do what Natalie did for free.
Kind of money,
Yeah, well, you're not going to find somebody to do it for free.
free, that's right.
So you got to decide what you want. But if it costs the town some money, that's okay. Because what you're doing is you're helping the entire town.
It's for the
by doing this.
businesses in the
You're bringing
community.
Thousands of people in from out of town.
Yeah.
You're helping the store owners. You're just doing a lot for the people in town, and we like it. That's why we did it for years. We got so damn old, we couldn't do it ourselves anymore. But you have the ability to do that, but don't put it off because it's going to cost you $2,000. I mean, that's just chintzy.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It is. You're right.
I don't know. It's good feedback, Bob. I don't think it's putting it off. We're just discussing how this is supposed to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. You're exactly right. Yes. You sure can. Yeah.
And we would like to take it on as a volunteer basis. And we have 4 people who are willing to do it and divide up the responsibilities. So it kind of negates the point of who's getting paid, what are they getting paid? We want the money to go back to beautification of Main Street, Broadway, and Landmark Park. So we don't want to take a profit from it. And we're experienced. We've held festivals before. I'm on the committee for the Peony Festival, our 5th year. So I know what I'm doing. So we would like to take it as merchants because it was a mess. Winterfest was kind of a mess. It didn't benefit us at all. They put up tents. They're in front of our businesses. Nobody's coming into our businesses because they're coming up and down, visiting the tents. So we want to be involved because if it's going to close Main Street and affect my business, I want to be a part of it. And I want it to be good and I want it to be quality that people are coming to town, spending money and having a good time. So we would love to take it on as a volunteer basis. So if that helps you.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Can we write a different contract if they're volunteers and? Okay.
So.
Thank you.
What's your name? Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure I'm familiar with which business is yours.
Window.
Hi.
And that is Andrew Ballard with Union Yoga, just the yoga studios. Along with Lisa from Black Sheep Gifts. And then we've kind of teamed up with Brittany, who is part of Be Local, who does Instagram content creator. So she would help with the marketing because I couldn't find anything to share Summerfest or Winterfest with anybody. I went to the website. I didn't see anything posted for the 2024. So we want to make it better and just help out.
It's a lovely offer. That's really great. That's good to hear. And also, one thing you said was related to something I was thinking about, that the tents were everywhere and blocking the businesses. That's what somebody else had told me as well.
And especially for Winterfest. I mean, people want to see Christmas lights. Like if we could figure out how to make the parade later in the evening where people can see lights going down Main Street, it's just more of a Norman Rockwell feel that, people come out for that. So whatever we can do to make it better, we're here to help.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, for its new contract. I just had, with that offer there, I just had one other question that I think still remains. It says here about having a $500,000 insurance policy. And I just wondered, has our town insurance agent reviewed this? Does that number check out in terms of our standing policy?
He does have a copy of it and he is aware of the 500,000 and thought that was sufficient for this.
He reviewed and confirmed with you. That checks out. Okay, I wondered because 500,000 sounded kind of low, but because usually event insurance is like $1 million.
Well, that's additional, or the insurance that we have. If you read that one paragraph, it's addition, because we're still covering insurance, but
Additional.
then shall maintain commercial liability insurance.
All right, well.
They're just adding to ours, which it's just a rider.
Well, no, it's independent, but theirs would be anything related to a claim arising out of the services under this agreement, the contractor's insurance policy would be the first layer to cover that claim. That's what Joe talked to the town's broker about, is based on the types of services that we're, out there securing vendors. Would $500,000 cover, the potential liability, and
And
he was comfortable with that.
It's pretty
Okay.
reasonable too. 500,000, the merchants could collect that.
Right, I wondered, and I figured it's still relevant either way, but with Stacy's recommendation, I guess we're kind of moving in
so-
different direction.
So just to put a finer point on Fritz's question about would there be, for a volunteer arrangement like that, would there be a different agreement? Yes, 100%. And really just the thing that pops into my head that's the closest is kind of like, our volunteer police officers, or if you're a ride along, we'd have some provisions like that, that here's what's going on, and your indemnification both ways and expectations, but it certainly is not an independent contractor. I mean, we still want a lot of things that we're talking about. We'd want the volunteer group to work with the town, whether that point person's Heath and Joe, or the council, whomever. I mean, you're the council, you decide these things. But yeah, we would lay that all out, and a lot of the provisions in here wouldn't apply to a volunteer.
Not going to be a town event.
I think in that case, actually, it would be 100% a town event, and these are just volunteers, just like if we asked for volunteers to do clean up the park day or what have you.
Right. I think, and it's not an issue. One of the things that would have to be discussed is, I know Ms. Gall's back there, and one of the things that she brought up was who is responsible for, so if, let's say volunteers are procuring the vendors and there's an issue, where does that stop? Where do we have that accountability? Is it a town thing? Is it a volunteer thing? And so I think we'll have to have whatever, if that's something the council wants to move forward with, that's great, but there's gonna have to be some provisions in there of kind of for better organizational structure of how that's gonna run.
Well, yeah, I think there's more to that conversation that you'd have to have if you went that route, because are they then responsible for collecting the money? And if not, then how does that come through the town?
For
Right?
sure. I mean, if
Right.
that's something where vendors are sending,
Don't
now
people
we're
want volunteers to
taking
collect
money
it all
on
money?
again as a town from essentially the reason why we got out of it in the first place was not have to pull all this, $85 checks and tie up Adriana and Missy with, a pile of work for frankly, what was kind of, I don't want to call it pennies. It was still money, but
So I had bank account, right? Like you took your money into, you kept track of your money that way. And so maybe, would it be reasonable to expect, maybe with a contract, like you're saying, Alex, even if we have volunteers, maybe we still do a contract, but they would collect and manage their money more like FAI did.
Right. Yes. And I'm sorry, because I'm talking way more than I ever like to talk in any of these meetings, but on the payment from vendors in the volunteer scenario, or maybe this, one way to go, I asked Adriana about this, is, the volunteer group secures the vendors. Yep, we want to be there. Here's what it is, $250. I don't know what it is, $250. We could set up a portal, correct me if I'm wrong, like an ACH or e-payment where, okay, here's how you pay, get in there and click, and here's your name, and it'll mark paid. And so it's seamless that way, instead of anyone handling
Yeah,
money
I like that.
to do it that way. It's just an idea, but there is that ability. I'm probably butchered the way that works.
No, there is an ability to do that and link, and even if they pay with check, that's all gets receipted into that particular account. The expenses would probably be taken out of that appropriation account that's set up for it.
Because there would be a fee for that.
There would be a fee for that.
There's a fee for, even if it's an ACH, it's 1% or something, I think.
As high as 3%.
Is it really? Well, mine's only 1.
It's really whether the vendor wants to incur that additional expense.
Yeah.
Most do not, which is why we end up getting a lot of checks. So that is the whole idea behind
A
it.
fee for convenience.
Correct.
So having a volunteer organization do it puts us as a town back in the driver's seat as far as receiving in money. Which again is kind of the opposite direction that we tried to go a couple years ago. If that's something the council wants to talk about doing, then obviously it's your prerogative to do so. Joe, do you?
I just had a question. As far as the vendors, to what extent do you guys want to be involved? FAI's always done a great job. Amy's Cause always does a great job. The chocolate walk everybody's coming in with a special events request form, get approval, you guys go do it, we'll support you. We could be in a supporting role. Is that, do you guys see yourselves as doing that much, or do you? We don't.
Yeah,
That's all included on our special events request form. There's places to fill out if you need barricades, where you want to block the road. Do you need power, tables, whatever, trash cans? For the other events, we do pay for the power and the hookups and Cammy's Cause and all the other festivals. We've always taken care of that. The festivals are a great thing. It brings people to Fortville. It's part of the promotional stuff that I know I'd heard the council talk about. We want to bring people to Fortville. We want to put Fortville on a map in a positive light. I think it's worth doing. And if we have volunteers that are willing to do it, in my opinion, I don't want to. I don't know about this.
I kind of like that idea better, because before we had a contractor solely, and then when there was a problem and there was a big, couldn't communicate back and forth and all the other things, this would probably make it better because there'd be several people to communicate with if there's a problem.
Would that leave this into the purview of the clerk treasurer's office? Since we would be receiving all the money and working with Heath to make sure that everything is.
Similar to some of the other organizations do it. They collect the money, they handle it. If they want to then, when it's all said and done, donate back to the town for a project, then they can do that.
Yeah. Isn't that what Vanessa had a problem with? Is that they then can charge whatever they want and the funds would actually.
FAI was a volunteer organization and they had a business bank account. And
So
this group here,
years to get a business.
they're nodding their heads. They're saying, yeah.
Yeah, they're saying yes.
Yeah, and so that's the difference. The difference is a business bank account. And also they're planning to use the money to either, that was actually kind of one of my next questions. If they're interested in taking, any kind of proceeds and investing it back into Main Street, then if they're gonna go on and do that themselves, can they at least just come and give us, a plan, give a report of, how much you made and what you want to do with it? Or if you want to donate it back to us to do something with it that we all agree on, that's fine too. I'm fine with either of those things. Those benefit the town. That's wonderful. I think it's great.
I think the town has to be involved in whatever you choose to make your donations at. You just can't willy-nilly do, I know that you wouldn't probably do that, but there are people that do that. So you'd want to definitely,
Right, that's
you
what-
definitely want to bring it in so we can talk about it and make sure that, but
Well, that's what I was saying,
yeah.
And it might help with when you're doing donations and when you're collecting money for the events, if you know what the proceeds are going to go for toward the end, if there's a beautification plan or a piece of playground or something like that, saying all the proceeds that are going to be generated from this are going to be donated to cover the cost for this particular item. And I would think that would help in your donations.
Ideally, that could eventually become kind of like a theme of what it's going to be. And then maybe people would even want to donate more money to it or something, that would be great.
I just want to make sure that I'm grasping this conversation is we would ask this volunteer organization to handle all the money and have them essentially do all the work for that is at a town event still. Right? Are we,
Just like Candy's cause or any of the FAI stuff that they had in the past.
so the town would be there to support.
Supporting them.
not-
But they would fill out an event request just like everybody else.
Okay.
Just,
I just
I think
wanted to
that's the
make sure
easiest
that-
way.
But we are still, from the town's perspective, talking about paying for things like the electrical, the, you know, the,
Just like we would for, yeah, yeah.
The dumpsters, like we are still providing that with the assumption that whatever they're going to bring in is going to come back to
The town.
cover the costs of that.
It does. That. But it's going to pocket versus actually worth to pay for that. And I don't know what the whole $50 or whatever to pay for the electric being separate as an extra job that she has to do to figure out what electric is. That's part of her vendor fee that she already collected. She's already getting paid to do all that part of her job.
Who's she? We're not talking about Natalie.
Yeah.
I'm not talking, this is not the conversation we're having right now, though. No.
Please come up to the mic.
She's only doing what the contract stated for her to do, so I'm not gonna debate, okay? We're not gonna debate over what Natalie did or didn't do.
As a vendor, coming from where we're coming from, there was fraud going on with the contracts prior to. The 2023 contract started from October to December. She was taking vendor payments prior to that.
Are we just here to attack Natalie? Because that's not what we're talking about. Well, that's what we're talking about now.
First of all, my support for having this event for the town and actually benefiting the town instead of somebody just ripping people off. So I'm saying, I have a right to say.
Yes, you do.
Thank you. I have a right to say that the electric that was being charged extra was not like an extra bonus that she got for setting up stuff. She collected thousands of dollars in fees. Part of her job was to do that. So in the contract, it appeared that she was paying, getting extra money for electricity.
It appeared that it never said that.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't.
It says pay extra for electric. If you need electricity, you pay extra. That's what it says. That's what we were being charged. So I'll leave it at this. I think it's wonderful what you guys are gonna do. Thank you for staying in the town.
So the question is how would you guys like to move forward? I think is where we're at right now, because at this point in time, what I can tell you is from a planning perspective, and this kind of is going to you guys as well. Vendors have already tried, because obviously, previously Natalie's been the go-to for, long before the town even had these with the Chamber of Commerce and FAI. Once we kind of took that over, those vendors, as FAI well knows, are already contacting for Summerfest. There's already a plethora of emails asking when it is, what are we doing? We can't obviously start doing that stuff until we have something in place. So I really, it's on you guys as far as how we want to go forward and how quickly we want to make this happen, because I can tell you just from experience, we're going to be behind the 8 ball here within probably the next 6 weeks if we don't have a game plan figured out on how to move
Yeah,
forward.
no, switch to a volunteer contract, right? We want to do the new Alex plan. Is that right, Alex? We want to do your
It's
new
not my
plan.
plan.
It's new plan.
It's gonna be the same deal that we have with FAI, right? Basically.
So
The same deal.
Like the agreement's already there.
No,
The
it's just-
FII, you put together
right
a
there.
proposal, like Joe said, on a special event
Yeah.
request. This is Summerfest, this is Winterfest, here's how we propose to do it.
Yeah.
You all discuss it, dial it in, and then
no contract on our end is what.
Yeah.
Special event request.
Faster.
They are taking the responsibility for essentially, we're there to provide support, right? As far as barricades and, obviously would get with them as far as the electrical. I did it with FEI, I do with Candy's cause, I do with all of them.
Yeah.
But they're responsible then from start to finish of setting everything up as far as all that's concerned. So if a vendor does have an issue, it's not a town thing, right? Like it is a.
What you do is just do what we did prior when FAI did it. Just set the electrical up like we did before. Do the barricades.
That event permit, we don't pay for all the electrical equipment. Like, so for Cammie's cause, like they go out and get their own electrical, or is that what we're asking these guys to go rent all the spider boxes and the 50-foot, RV cables and the, procuring the bands and everything else money wise?
Feel like if they have said they're going to donate the funds back to the town for beautification or whatnot, that we should have an agreement with this particular group to provide that.
That's what I'm saying. The service, the contract, the special event request does not include something like that,
Right.
right? This is a different situation.
Right.
In this case.
I know, but the
I
other
think that the-
situation, we're
the
paying for it
contract.
anyway. We're paying for it too.
We're paying for the physical, like the actual Duke Energy electrical, right? Cammie's cost pays for their own stage. Cammie's cost pays for their own bands. Cammie's cost pays for their own spider boxes and.
Well, this is a town event. That's the Cammy.
No, it's not now. It's what they're.
Yeah, I like what Libby had to say about it, that in this case.
We have to make a clear
Yeah.
decision on whether it's a town event or if it's a volunteer event, and it needs to be handled as such.
That's my point is.
The line's too blurry.
That special event covers Cammie's cause. It covered FAI. It does not cover what you guys are talking about doing.
Right.
So you would need a
Okay.
new contract and or a special
What
event.
did we do for FAI when they were running the winter festival? And you volunteer, Brad, that's probably what we'll have to do then.
No, not.
Are you-
We rent them every year. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so I guess that's my point. It's not as simple as a special event request because
Right.
this is, if we are being asked to still pay for certain things, there needs to be something in place as to what that
Okay.
is. So.
That discussion with them, I guess, and work something out.
The next meeting, if you think of other things like this, maybe we take another look at it. Like if other, like that's one example you brought up, maybe there's others. Maybe we look at it and see, is it worth it to make some kind of contract, or do we look at each item and say, you know what, it's like
Okay.
it was with FAI or something?
Well, and I guess my concern is you're asking a volunteer group, probably, obviously, sounds like just forming to, are we asking them to cover the cost for all of the things? If we are, then there needs to be a contract
Okay.
put in place. If they're gonna run it on their own and we're just there to provide barricades and make sure they have.
Bob and Mildy could probably give them some advice and they can decide whether or not that they wanna.
I think you guys need to come back to us with what and maybe you can do that before our next meeting so we can not
Yeah.
waste any more time and get you started
Yeah.
one way or the other. So
Take a look at the
just
event.
if we can specify some of the things that are in question here, and then we can go from there. Okay.
Yeah. I do think there needs to be some sort of contract, though, if they're gonna be responsible for Summerfest and Winterfest, because our last experience with, the reason we have it in our control now is because it was in a organization that dissolved and didn't want to handle it anymore. So that's why we took it on. I trust that you're gonna be here a long time, because if you leave, I will hunt you down. However, what if,
Yeah, there's always
what
that.
ifs, and,
Instead, when you start and how to do, and phone numbers, contact. We didn't just walk away from it. And we let the town know in January, we weren't gonna do this in December.
Right.
So it sounded like.
No, I
No.
even
No.
referring to you. I wasn't referring to.
Not even,
Probably more summer at this point.
yeah,
No,
no, we know.
and that's what I was thinking, Bob. That's gonna be Stacy's reading list in the annual. Oh, see,
Keith, in looking at this special event request that was turned in earlier, there is a place on here for, like I say, if you want blocking roads, barricades, it says the town will provide 250-foot power cords, 240-volt twist lock cables, and 1 spider box.
Which
And
again,
then after that, it would be up to them to.
same thing that we've done for even this past summer with the concerts, like we bring over the spider boxes, very minimal, right? But when we're talking festivals on the scale that we're doing, obviously we don't have that kind of equipment. So that would be a conversation. And it sounds like, not trying to beat a dead horse, like these guys need to kind of put together in their head what they think they can accomplish with the volunteers that they have and where they think maybe they're going to need some help, and then come back to us and we figure out from there, what we can do, and if a contract needs to be put in place or if a special event request suffices. That'll be, something for Alex.
yeah, maybe they can come back at the next meeting and we can talk about it, because Heath, you're saying 6 weeks is about when, you're saying we have about 3 more meetings to get organized.
Yes, to really figure out, or we're gonna start losing people. People are gonna start going elsewhere. It gets hard finding bands. I've got, knock on wood, I've got the fireworks kind of tentatively scheduled, but again, that will, we'll have to get formal approval for the date of Summerfest. And obviously I haven't done that yet because we didn't know what was going on. So we know what day it's supposed to be, but I haven't asked you guys for that yet. And is that something I'm gonna have to ask for? Is that something these guys are gonna have to ask for? So getting all that figured out here, I'd say 6 weeks is kind of our stop. Thank you.
All right, yeah.
Thanks, Heath. Appreciate it. Okay, there's no old business, so we'll go to department. Joe, anything else?
I don't have a lot this evening, but I will say that, speaking of special events, I know Jared had reached out on Cammy's cause. He was hoping to be here this evening, but he's going to be on the agenda for the next meeting. And he also wanted to get those dates that we're tentatively looking for is August 22nd and 23rd, just so we don't double book that. Anything else? But he should be here at the next meeting for that. Andy did post a water leak that we had earlier today, and luckily it ended up not being a broken main. It was a service line, the valve that holds it to the main that blew apart. The guys were able to get it dug up and get it repaired fairly quickly. We got 2 new hires. I was going to have them here this evening to introduce them, but they were here late working on that water leak and it was a little muddy and needed to go home and get cleaned up. I told them we'd do it another time. We still got interviews going on because we still have 2 more positions to fill. And there's actually 3 sewer system extension projects that I'm kind of looking at. With some of the developers that we've been talking to that are coming in looking to go different directions, it's going to require that we have the sewer capability to service those areas. So I'm trying to work on getting some stuff laid out and priced out and come back to the council for. And that's all I have unless you have questions for me.
Adam is not here. Heath, you don't have anything else, do you? You do? Okay.
Heath Luther, Parks Manager, for the record. Very quickly, I touched on it previously. I've been trying to work with some consulting companies about dialing in our Parks Master Plan as a whole. And just to let everybody know, I've got 1 quote back. I'm still waiting on 2 more. And what I'm looking at having them do is a kickoff meeting and project coordination and site tour with town employees, redoing our online survey that we did like years ago and kind of getting some more up-to-date feedback. A day of focus groups, a public meeting, demographic and recreation trends analysis, funding and revenue strategies for the parks, implementation of plan development, and a final master plan production. With some other options that down the road I would like to look at. One of those is like our life cycle costs and our schedule on equipment. That's something a lot of these consultants can do, as well as like an operational maintenance review. So The first number that I got back was surprisingly not as high as what I thought, so I'm probably gonna be coming to you guys, hopefully, as soon as I get these other two in, with some numbers on actually having our parks plan voted on, not just finish it, but voted on by you guys, then will allow us to make it official. And one of the big things in doing that, it does us no good. Like, we could take that plan that I have now and you guys could vote it in because it's technically done per the DNR, but all it's gonna do is sit in a file cabinet for 5 years until we have to redo it. I want to enlist the help of people that are actually going to help us plan on how we're going to accomplish these things in the park, whether it's a renovation of Landmark Park, whether it's, stuff in the, Memorial Park, things like basketball goals and just all of that stuff. I want to have a game plan on how we're actually going to be able to tackle it from a revenue standpoint. So just FYI, as soon as I get those numbers back, I want to have that conversation with you guys.
Thanks, Heath. Patrick, do you have anything else?
One thing I have is I will be out February 19th through the 23rd for my ice fishing trip.
Maybe I got a question. I forgot to, Adam's not here. What did we figure out about the Ridgeview Apartments fencing?
It was agreed upon.
That thing?
Yeah, we got it worked out.
I didn't hear you.
It's been worked out.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Adriana, anything to add? Alex?
I don't have anything else unless you have questions for me.
Public comment? I saw it coming to the front.
Use their 2 minutes and their 2 minutes and
That's okay.
Hi, I'm Dave Beatson. I live here in Poplar Street. Sounds like you guys got into the festival business and didn't like it too well, but we had that for 10 years and really enjoyed doing it. And as far as if there's money left over, returning it to town, Fortville Action, when we done this, we had anything left over. Sometimes it was this much, sometimes it may be this much. It was all spent back to the town. And you can be seen downtown what we have done over the years. And why did we do it? Because we wanted to do it for the town, And I think you got to ask yourselves what kind of town we want to be. If we want to be so cheap that we won't give away just a little bit of electricity, maybe have a few extra policemen come in and the fire department come down there. This is what towns do for the public. We only have 1 or 2 events a year, and I think it can get off their wallet enough to fund some of this stuff. Also, I think you're just making this too hard. We done it for 10 years and it was fun. And it was a lot of work. It's a lot of damn work, and to have a good event takes people to get in there and do it and do it right. And I think you're making too much of the little bit of money that's left over and where the town wants it back. If there's some left over, we spend it back. We spend it in spades. We've got people that donate to us to help us. And if this is just some way we could make a little money without having to go out and beg for it, And
I do remember that because we had a meeting and there was a group of people before us that they organized the jugs from Courtsville to here.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing. It was just a new set of blood. And now after 10 years, I think we have, if you've been to some of the merchants meetings, we have it at the Moondrop. This is just a new set of blood to pick up the baton and carry it for the next 10 years or so. And I think you guys did a great job. You really did.
Well, we just sounds like it didn't go too smooth the last couple of years. And I hope you guys get that ironed out and do it again because it's a great event. It has been a great event. I don't think you want to do without it.
No, we don't.
I think you just want to tweak it and get it back to where it was, where it's not a big problem for you. And I do think it costs you guys a few bucks. I think the public deserves it. And,
I don't think that's ever been a question. I mean, we're not afraid to,
well, good.
yeah,
Glad-
it's not, that's not, yeah.
we-
I think it's more about, it became an issue about who was responsible more than anything else. So, I mean, I don't think it was, yeah.
It's been going on for 40 years over there, and for some reason, they keep doing it, and they're not doing it because it's easy. It's hard, and it's hard.
It is hard, but
People have to do that kind of thing. They have to spend a little money for that town. They have to shut down the town for a whole, a week or something like that.
3 days.
They
Yeah, that's a
can't even
major
drive
artery.
through their town. We're just talking a one evening event, and I think you want to do all you can to keep it and enhance it. Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions for me?
In time, in time.
anybody else? Do you need 15 minutes? Okay. Okay, next up, we have town council comments. Libby?
Do not have any.
Nothing for me.
There's a couple things I want to say, and I want to publicly apologize to Natalie for being criminalized for what she did. And I think it's sad that a lot of misinformation is out there about her. And she's never spoke out to anybody on her side of the story, so I give her credit for that. But I think it's sad that, people have looked at her differently just because of one vendor that was unhappy. So I'm just going to say that I personally apologize for that to her. That's all I got to say.
Well, I wasn't gonna say anything, but Tanya, since you're talking about wrong information, we had complaints that the prizes for photo contests weren't given out. People couldn't get their prizes and things. And so in response to Mr. Beatson's comments, I'm not up here trying to argue over pennies or be selfish or try to take money for the town or anything like that, but the town can't be donating money for somebody else's benefit in underhanded ways. So somebody can't be charging different amounts of money and then also not giving out prizes to families who won photo contests. That can't be the way that we're doing business. I'm happy for, I too am happy for the town to donate money if everybody is volunteering and donating. If we're all in it together, that's fine, but we can't be up here unilaterally donating taxpayer money if somebody else is running off with money that was owed to other people or shouldn't have been collected in the first place. So that's my 2 cents about that. And I'm very, very happy and thankful that Stacy and her colleagues have stepped up to volunteer. And I'm going to go introduce myself right after the meeting. Thank you.
I have a public comment. When we started the Winter Festival, it was just a group of volunteers. It wasn't even FAI. It was basically, we went, knocked on doors, we collected money from business owners. We went out and purchased the lights. We rented a scissor lift and we put the lights on and we got it all done. And that night we did that all, we didn't start all day. It was just that, and it snowed that day. And it was beautiful. Everybody was hugging and kissing on each other after that night. And we said, oh God, we got to do this again.
That's a bit
And
much.
it was a great time. And I look forward to the new people to pick up the baton and run with it. It won't be as difficult as what we started out with it, but I feel confident that you guys will take that baton and run with it. I thank you.
Here, here.
Okay, we need a motion to approve and sign vouchers.
I'll make a motion to approve and sign vouchers.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I make a motion to adjourn at 8:13.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.